YouTube. Good night over there on YouTube. Good night and welcome to Mindful Live 336. I'm your host Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. It's the 25th of January and it's a Thursday talk. So you know what we're doing? We're talking, we're chilling. A little late start over there, but once you're on the inside, make sure you hit that like button. Double tap the screen over there. On TikTok, however, you hit that like button. On Facebook, please do just that. If you're taking it in on the repeat too, also on YouTube, hit that like button. Drop a comment. Tell me what you think. And let's jump in. So it right there on TikTok, it's like a box. They just unfold it and voila, you have a whole house. Yeah, there are all kinds of technology out there. There are all kinds of technology out there, but Trinis like fancy house. Eh? I don't think Trinis would be quickly lining up for some foldable house like that. Trinis like to express themselves in their homes. Hopefully we have an uninterrupted night. Hopefully, bro. Hopefully the internet connection looks solid. The internet looks solid tonight. The bill is well paid. We have nothing that we should be worried about. So what's on your mind, folks? What are you thinking about? What's your mind full of? What's been in the news? I saw that fly trying to interrupt already. Ha! Wasn't that, well, wasn't a fly, it was a mosquito. Right? Regularly, there's just that one or two mosquitoes that get trapped on the inside, looking to be a nightmare. So yeah. What are we thinking about? By white leather, if I bop them, I'll bop myself, you know. the room closed. And AC. So, you know, we can't bop them right now. I see Liat done long time. Liat's supposed to be done long time, but I believe the islands are looking to relaunch another airline service. Too much Tiny Home Nation and HGTV for me. Oh, Sandesh Budram over there on Facebook. I feel that tiny home business is a psyop. They put that out there to encourage people to, you know, make a smaller footprint on their home. Don't get me wrong. I don't think you should overcomplicate your home unnecessarily. But this tiny home business, that's a psyop. Mine is on how to make good money legitimately, bro. Join the club. Isn't it on that for us all? How do you make that cheddar, huh? Enough money ain't enough money, and you need some more. How do you make it? That's the question everybody wants to know, I guess. Mine is on how to avoid traffic. Oh gosh, stay home. Number one way you can avoid traffic is staying home. There is that. Caribbean homes supposed to withstand hurricanes. Thinks that's why it's like this. Yeah, our homes are supposed to be built hurricane resistant, so we are supposed to build them a bit stronger. That's true. We can make more money if we use the internet in a smart way. Fact. So whatever business you do, if you are able to get it online and you are able to show that you're good at your business, the internet is a wonderful place to expand your money-making potential. So, hey, as you say that, just a reminder, this has been brought to you as per usual by Mindful Education, Mindful with 2 L's, _education if you're looking for us over there on Instagram. That's the educational institution that I run. Yep, we offer learning pods, which are homeschool styled sessions for all age groups, all learning stages, starting from preschool going all the way up to CXC. Also, we offer individual one-on-one tutoring for most CXC and CAPE subjects. If you need that added extra attention, feel free to reach out to us. But yeah, people, What's on your minds? And I seen the likes looking like they're struggling over there on TikTok. Let's get those likes pumping. Double tap that screen over there. A lot of ads and virtual platform pops up on making extra cash online. Does anyone have experience? I will advise you nearly anytime something pops up online for you to make some extra money, leave that where you see it. That would be my advice to you. You see them just pop up and say, hey, you want to make some money online? Tell them no. Tell them no. It's a bad idea. Trainees are particularly susceptible to that kind of thing. It looks like trainees are susceptible on both sides. We are the con artists and we are the ones being conned. But I mean, anytime you want something for nothing, anytime you're too interested in getting a shortcut ahead, you're ripe for the picking of con men, and there are lots of trainees like that. So constantly in Trinidad, there are con men and there are people being conned, and con men being conned. Right true. Like, oh geez, trainees. Oh geez. Work hard for what you want. If the idea sounds like it's too good to be true, it's very likely too good to be true. Can one register online to your business, Nathan? Yes, one can, sir. Yes, one can. Will you ever look into the TikTok creator platform for monetizing your account? Yes, I have. I believe on TikTok, one of the chief ways for monetizing is through subscribers. So what would have to happen is you all would have to basically pay to join here. Now, I wouldn't really look to monetize too many things on TikTok like that. If I were to monetize that, I'd say, all right, well, you all can pay me directly. But to try to get someone to send some money for me from TikTok, through TikTok here, very likely what would happen if someone were to do something like that, like some of the gifts you see being sent here. You send a gift with 10 cents and I get 2 cents or something like that. It kind of just doesn't make sense. So usually the ideal thing if someone was interested in that is you give directly to the creator that you're interested in seeing benefit from that. But monetizing these platforms, especially in Trinidad and Tobago, may be a bit more difficult. Richard Ram Logan, thank you for showing yourself to be a fool. Makes it easy. There are many trolls, and I always, that's something I always note, the fact that, you know, there's some adult human being sitting at 10:30 scrolling through TikTok lives just to troll. That's a sad place for your life to be. That's a really sad place for your life to be, you know. That's the kind of thing you should, you know, pause and re-evaluate your position on this earth. What am I doing here? What is trolling? Really, Nick Hepburn, you've never heard about trolling? Or are you trolling? Any questions, people? It's an honest question. Well, yeah, that I was hoping the explanation there kind of showed it. Trolling is like that kind of purposefully offensive, playfully sarcastic, satirical posting that we see regularly online. That's what trolling is. So all 38 of us over here on TikTok just chilling, watching each other. No questions, no thoughts. No one wants to jump inside. By the way, you could jump inside, join the live, and say, yo, talk about something. Yeah, I feel she fall asleep, sir. Because once she was awake, the likes would have been flowing in. I eating the $17 pack of soup here. Hey, RL, on that note, Bro, you know anywhere in Tobago that I could come over and sell some soup? If that's the case, I'll buy some packs of soup, local here, fill up a van, go over to Tobago and sell it for the $17. All I need is a location, sir. If it's $17 for soup over there, I sure I'll beat in $17. I'll sell it for $15. Just, we could work together on this, RL. You set up the stall. You set up the stall, and I bring the soup over. You have to sell after hours, like 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. I suppose you mean, and that no problem, no problem. Kinta Moses, what's the topic? The topic is whatever you decide to talk about. It's a Thursday, and what we do on a Thursday talk over here on the Mindful Live is we just talk about whatever the chat is talking about, whatever topic or question the chat decides to jump in with. That's the topic. You're taking the passenger ferry over to Guyana? You're jumping on a passenger ferry, taking a little 18-hour trip over to Guyana? What would happen if they cut everyone's salary by 30%? When you say everyone, who is everyone? And who is they? Who has the power to cut everyone's salary? If you're a private businessman, if you're a mechanic, if you have a little garage or something somewhere, who's going to cut your salary by 30%? No one has that control over your salary. If you're talking about government, if they cut the government workers' salary by 30%, I think that might actually benefit the country in the long run, but it would decrease the amount of luxury spending in the short. It may decrease the amount of spending on food in the short term. I think long-term benefits, short-term headaches, lots of them. Lots of short-term headaches, but maybe a lot of long-term benefits in the long run. If you're talking state government workers. If you're talking government workers, and those are the ones whose salaries you would want to cut if you could cut any, being honest out here. We seem to have a lot of luxury spending, we do. And that's one of the ways you know Trinidad is very wealthy. When people try to give you the talk like, you know, Trinidad is over struggling, Trinidad is real hard, Trinidad going to the dogs and all of that. Trinidad is legitimately a violent place. Our crime situation is horrible. But economically, lots of people in Trinidad are not even close to struggling. Not even nearly. Trinidad has a strong luxury industry. Many people are making much more than the amount of money needed just for their necessities. They aren't only spending on necessities, and maybe that might partially be why the amount of robberies and so on are the way they are. It's like a unique mix. We're a wealthy country, but with corrupt policing service that allows a lot of criminality. So you see that relation there. Why does the government tax luxury items and they determine what is luxury? It's so stupid, luxury tax. The idea is you have to understand what the purpose of the government is, at least ostensibly. What they say the purpose of the government is that we all come together. We're supposed to be working together as a society to help our society. And the idea being, yo, Matic boss, hold it down. The idea being that those who can afford more should help more. That's the way nearly all societies function on that level. And there is some reasonability to it. There is some reasonability to it that those who have more should pay more. Part of the reason is that if you have more, it is assumed that you use more of the communal resources. So if you have a trucking company which gives you more money, it makes you more money, you also use the roads more than the average person. The average person who is working a minimum wage salary job, they walk. Their wear and tear on the road is their foot. While you have a fleet of 20 trucks driving on the road, nicking pavements, bruising bridges, scraping this, raking off top layers of asphalt. So theoretically, you would say if someone is extracting more from a system, you would expect that they would pay more into it. That's kind of where the theory would be based. If you're making more, it could be supposed that you're extracting more from the system, and in that case, well, it makes sense that you pay more. That's on one side. And then that's a quite specific example. Yeah, but like think of any example, any business. Okay, you own a grocery. If you own a grocery, you need transport to bring all of your products into the grocery. So all of those trucks that transport those goods to bring it to your grocery, they use the roads more. The passengers that travel on the roads to come to your grocery, they use the roads more. So your grocery benefits more from the road than the individual single pedestrian. So as a grocery owner, it should be assumed that since you benefit more, you should be paying more towards that road. That's the theoretical reason, and it makes sense in that sense. Now, there's also a kind of ideological reason where people believe that once you make more, people believe once you make more, you owe more. That it's basically unfair for someone to make more than the other person, and once they make more than them, you take from them to give to the other. Means that means you owe that there. It's unfair for you to make more than the other. That version I 100% disagree with. That's that kind of Marxism kind of thing getting in there. I don't think someone who makes more owes more necessarily just for owing more sake. I do believe, however, if you extract more, you should pay more. But there are ways to solve that. If the government didn't own the roads, and there are places like this, if the government didn't own the roads, who do you think would have paid for the roads? Those same private companies. So maybe you do some more of that. Get some direct payment. Get some direct investment from companies to directly invest in things where they extract resources from. But where you're talking about the luxury items, such as the food items, that's what the government is doing. They're trying to Wow. My apologies on that. That's what the government is doing. They're trying to extract more from the people they believe have more. When they label items luxury items, they believe, okay, this item is the kind of item that no one buys unless they have more than a certain amount. And because of that, we'll consider this a luxury item and take some more out of it. Those who make more are the ones who pay people who get them to avoid paying. Correct. Good night, Shy Guy. That's correct, Dalip Jairam, and that's kind of the problem that all those taxes fall into. When you attempt to tax more, the truth is the very wealthy people know how to avoid paying more taxes. They pay people a lot of money to make sure they don't have to pay a certain amount of taxes. So if you keep raising taxes, it's not them you get more taxes from, you take it from the middle class. That is so much power for government to have. Yes, RL, it is. That's why you hear those libertarians always talking about taxation being theft. And it saddens me when I see Trinidadians running to giving the government more and more power and wanting the government to spend more and more money, not understanding where the government gets money from. If the government is spending money, they're extracting resources from the economy. So people in the economy who are givers to the economy, people who are in net positive in the economy, they are the ones that are always very bothered. Good night, positive radiation. Very bothered about the government getting more involved. While people who are net takers, they are net negatives on the economy, they have no care about what the government gets involved with because they're subsisting off the government either way. So my laptop costs 1,000 US. I save my money because the government decides it's a luxury item. I pay 500 US more tax. Yes. Yes, you do. And the next time someone asks the government to do something, remember that. The next time someone is saying, but why the government don't do this? Remember that. The next time someone is saying, but why we don't ask the, why? Remember that. That's why. I'm starting a manufacturing company. How do you think it will do in this country? I think it will do very well according to what you're manufacturing. That's just it. It's according to what you're manufacturing. But Trinidad has a burgeoning manufacturing industry. We are the main manufacturers of the Caribbean. I don't know if any of you saw that viral video coming out of Jamaica where the young lady was upset. She was most upset that all of the Jamaican snacks were actually Trinidadian snacks. And then someone came out trying to show that they're not Trinidadian snacks. They're actually snacks from all over the world. But that wasn't the original point. It wasn't a point about who invented the snack the first time they made the snack up. That's not what they're talking about. They're talking about where the snack was made. And those snacks are made in Trinidad and Tobago. We have serious manufacturing here. So it's according to what you're manufacturing here, you may actually be very profitable. And although the PNM government does attempt to lock in certain types of status quo, there are certain things where they do a lot, and manufacturing is one. If you're so set up, you should look into like Nedco and those guys and see the incentives that they have towards manufacturing. Very likely there are lots of incentives if you are going into manufacturing seriously. Positive. I say Trinidad as in Trinidad and Tobago, right? That's what I mean, Trinidad and Tobago. I know you are. I don't know why some Jamaicans feel so threatened and mad anytime Trinidad has anything before them. It's not only a Jamaican thing, innit? If you've been on the internet for a while, it's a regular thing between countries, between groups, where you regularly see, because there's in-group bias. People have biases for their in-groups, and no one likes to feel like their in-group is worse than the other. And that's kind of the reason Jamaica and Trinidad regularly has that kind of fight for supremacy of the Caribbean, and Jamaica has the popular pop culture kind of slant, and Trinidad and Tobago has the economic slant, and that those insults are thrown around with deadly efficacy. So some people are offended by it. No surprise there, really and truly. I thought it was because of the federation thing. No, I don't think many people remember or harken back to that federation thing when they're thinking about those reasons. I mean, I've been at Nutrien for a while. I'm 19 and with a dip, but I'm going to get a degree in mechanical engineering. By all means, go through, bro, and then start up your manufacturing if that's what you're interested in. Yeah, most people don't remember. I don't think people being insulted or insulting Jamaica or from Trinidad or vice versa are thinking back to 1 from 10 makes 0 and all of that kind of thing. Plenty of them don't even understand that history. I think especially if you ask something that in the modern generation about anything about the Caribbean Federation, they would be at a loss. What? Caribbean Feather? What? What is that? How's your roads doing in Trinidad? Any improvement? Yeah, actually, there's been some improvement on the roads. They've been doing some paving over the last year or so. Now, some of it is horrible, to be very honest with you. Some of the paving is already in a mess. But they've been doing some. They pass in diploma, yeah. I kind of figured. I figured. Jamaica has a lot of pride. They do. What do you think about one Caribbean currency? I think that would benefit Trinidad. I won't mind. I won't mind, but I think that would benefit Trinidad. If there's one Caribbean currency, Trinidad would get the best out of that, I think. Trinidad would really get the best out of that. But I don't mind such a thing. That might help in the long run, one Caribbean currency, and it would decrease. But our government would hate that. Trinidadians, Trinbagonians, positive. Trinbagonians would love that, I think. We would benefit from that, but the Trinidad and Tobago government would not. They would decrease a lot of control. They would lose a lot of control over the economy, and they love controlling the economy. That short fair-skinned guy seems to really enjoy his job. So the amount of control that they're able to enact on the economy by having control of the currency, I don't think the government would want to give that up. We have a government that on a whim spins on a dime and creates a brand new currency, changes the whole currency. Everybody has to give up all their dollars in a month, rake up all your dollars, run into the bank in a month and exchange. Like, who does that kind of mad thing? Well, people with the power to do it. And I don't think they would want to give up the power to do just that. Luxury taxing my Nesquik cereal from 15 to 35 TT. Yeah. The government wouldn't like a Caribbean currency that they have no control over. I mean, if Trinidad had the Central Caribbean Bank was in Trinidad and Tobago and under the control of the Trinidad government, well, then they might not mind. But as a one entity, nah. The federation fell apart similarly. Like, all right, yes, there's the reality of the larger countries having to pull. There's the reality of the larger countries having to pull the weight of the smaller countries, and the larger countries did not want that. That's part of it. But I think personally a lot of the reason the federation wouldn't have worked is many of these Caribbean territories have power brokers who love power. Many of the Caribbean politicians who are in power, they love power. They are in power because they love it. How do you think the government will actually collect property taxes? At this stage, it looks like people will not pay. I think if they go through it, as with so many other things, the most honest middle class people are the people who are going to suffer the most. People who have their jobs locked in, people who have their jobs locked in or locked into the system so everyone knows their salary and their property is paid by a mortgage so the bank is aware of everything, people like that, they are the ones who will not be able to escape. What's your perspective on flights from Africa to the Caribbean? I would love that. I would love it. You ever looking people aren't going to pay. I'm afraid not to pay. And well, that's the thing, sir. People would be afraid not to pay, but the moment people get away with not paying, you understand, the moment people get away with not paying, RL says you can't get water and electricity now without paying the property tax. Yeah, you can't sell land without paying the taxes. RL, come on, bro. You know this is Trinidad. I was not going to say that positive radiation. This is Trinidad. People are selling land that isn't even on their name. People are getting water connections to homes that have no town and country planning. They are getting electricity connected too. So that's not gonna matter. That's not gonna matter. I don't think it's gonna matter. The more enforcement they get, the more enforcement they're going to get. The less enforcement they get, the less enforcement they're going to get. So if at the start of this, the first thing they have to be able, when they jump out with this property tax, they have to be able to scare enough people into paying it so that they scare more people into paying it. If enough people aren't scared into paying it, then less people are going to pay it the next time. And even less people the next time. And even less people the next time. And here's the thing. Whatever punishment you're thinking about doing to people who don't pay their property taxes, you cannot do it if nobody pays their property taxes. So, if there are 300 people throughout the country who do not pay their property taxes, you could punish 300 people. You might be able to give them a serious fine. If it's 10 people who don't pay their property taxes, you could punish them more. You could probably throw them in jail. But if it's 50,000 people don't pay their property taxes, you can't fine 50,000 people. You can't throw 50,000 people in jail. Like the mask fines that they did throughout COVID. As far as I know, up until now, people still haven't paid any of those fines. And Curvon, I think that's what most people will do. They will delay payment for as long as they could. And if they recognize they could delay payment forever, they will do just that. So the state putting people on the road? No. No, they aren't. They aren't doing anything like that. And that's the thing. They could only punish people in such a case who could take the punishment in a kind of. It's a strange balance. Hola. I don't oppose the tax in principle, but the rates are too high and I have no faith in government. Nearly no tax in principle I might oppose. If you're telling me you want to take some money to help everyone get the roads and common areas within my community better taken care of, well, that makes sense. Of course, I don't oppose that. But when you tell me you're doing that and you're giving it to a government that spends $260-something million in rental prices per year, I'm going to feel like, okay, you're going to waste my taxes. And that's kind of the issue for most people. It's not about just paying the taxes, it's about what the taxes are going to be used for. I have a friend with a few acres of cane field land in South. He pays $600 for the year. Well, he better than most people because most people aren't paying a red cent. They could have how much acres of land they want. They aren't paying a red cent on that. Many people. That's actually part of how some land fraud happens, by some other person coming in and paying some of those taxes and then trying to claim the land. But just noting that many people don't pay those taxes. Millions on an inquiry but afraid to act on the findings. Well, not afraid, they say they can't. I have a problem with continuing to support a non-productive public service. Me too. Me too. I have a problem paying the public service when I find they don't work for me. Did they say there would be a 5-year limit before? I don't know if they said that. I can't remember hearing that or reading that. I saw they're still pursuing the Paria incident for millions. Who they still pursuing the incident? I believe it was the contractor who was protesting outside of Paria, demanding money for the surviving the relatives of the deceased. If it's that you were talking about. So yeah, what's the questions or comments, people? On the inside, it's Thursday. Anybody wanting to jump in and talk? Yo, positive.
Yeah, Martin, to discuss the thoughts on the plan to roll out the 100,000, I think it is, as a crime fighting strategy.
100 million, sir. 100 million, sir. Thoughts on the car buff at the meet? Well, first off, on the KR buff, not out of character. That's who KR is. I spoke about that last night. Was it last night? His paternalistic nature, I don't like that. I don't like that kind of behavior where you feel like you're everybody's daddy. I really don't like it. It comes off offensive to me. I don't mind masculine energy, as it were, but the paternalistic, you are not everyone's daddy. You do not have the authority like that over everyone. Your authority is that of a political leader. You are not the king. You are not everyone's dad. You are not the spiritual father of the nation or anything like that. I don't like that kind of tone of talking to people. That's not my flavor, but it is his, and it's a normal thing with him. I comment on politics, yes, but with the 100 million, I would really like to see how they're going to spend that, because I think it's a foolish assumption to assume that money is the solution for crime. How are you going to spend $100 million to alleviate crime? How is that money being spent to do that? And what saddens me, and I wonder about this, I saw the opposition said it. Dr. Munilal was saying he believes this is going to be used to pay the gangs. And I hope not. But the sad part of it is it's not an impossible assumption, because many times when our government and those in authority in our country talk about solving crime, they talk about going into those communities and spreading around money and starting a program, starting some kind of community something. And very often when you do that, the gang leaders are the ones in charge and they are the ones getting the lion's share of the money. I do hope it's nothing like that. Another sport or make work program where you go in and you basically pay the gangs, hoping that they stop being violent. And that does not work.
But Nathan, I could speak from experience. So I did a program last year, and I've been asking since completion, where is the next phase of the program basically? Or when are they going to run cycle 2? One of the problems they were saying is that when they give these young men stipend, so they train you for a while, life skills, so on, and then they spend 3 months actually working as an intern, as I understood, and you get some stipend from it. Some of the guys were complaining that the leaders were taxing back out the stipend out of them. So you go on whole day on a government training program and you ain't doing my work. So you gotta put back something here. If you want to leave, you gotta put back something. But the idea of the program was very good. I know there are success stories out of the program. And my question is why we didn't run it for a second cycle. You may have teething issues in your first phase of the program, but run it for a second cycle. Instead of taking this money and say bringing back soldiers, are we going to create a military state? We know the soldiers are not the most or the best individuals with the greatest of emotional intelligence. We know they are trained with a particular mindset. So why are we bringing back these rigid individuals to go into to ball up on the young people, just like we saw a particular person do a couple nights ago? Is it that we want guys to ball up on the young men again? I don't think you'll get the best result like that. So I understand, yes, what you want to do, but you have to build a relationship with these individuals to actually get the young men to open up and to talk and to share, to pull them out.
I understand 100% what you say, and I basically agree. Now, my thing is, I believe that crime shouldn't be treated with a kid glove. So the baller part and the soldiers may have their place. And what I usually see is you need a two-pronged approach. You need to remove the recalcitrant criminal elements from the community so that you would be able to pay the youth men a stipend without the gang members taking it. So you need both sides. You need daddy and you need mommy, proverbially I'm speaking here, where you need someone with the force to go in the community and remove those criminal elements. You need that. And then those avenues that you're talking about there, where some of those programs, I think they would have much better results like that. If you already have the elements gone, then you could try to, deal with the youth men who are being influenced. But with the elements there, trying to deal with the youth men while the gang leader, you have the youth men in some program on that tent there and they're listening and they're all taking the scene and stuff, but they know as soon as they walk out the tent, the second man and he fellas lean up right on a wall. They're watching everybody who come and they done let you know whatever you're getting they had to run it outside. What are you going to do like that? How are you actually going to help a community like that? It's very difficult. And it's the example. That's another sign I need to probably print, or I could print that on a jersey. It's not that poverty causes crime, but crime causes poverty in those communities, and that's that kind of crime leading to poverty. We need to get rid of the poverty causing crime, and then we could deal with the crime causing poverty. I don't know if you understand what I mean. The crime that the crime that causes the poverty, you get the law enforcement to deal with that crime. Then the poverty that remains, that helps to make it easier to get into a life of crime, we deal with that second. If you try to deal with the poverty first and the crime remains, you're actually just paying the crime. You can't pay the poverty to stop the crime. You have to stop the crime and then try to pay out the poverty. You need to take out, not remove, but that can't happen because the law operating on crime. When you say take out, you talking flying squad kind of talk there?
No, but next question I would also add to, because this comment had me thinking as well. If you want to address these issues, why not actually bring a bill to have some of these guys become legal marijuana farmers? So instead of you having, I just think outside of the box.
Yeah.
The controversial positions.
Yeah.
If you have some of these guys and they say, hey, what's going on, fellas? All legal to plant all the weed. Like a smoke all like 30 grams. No, see, no, kill one another over the weed. Because illegal. We export the weed for all them plant, sell the weed to this processor here. We got package it, we got export the weed, all got get the money, we got pay in some US. So all we need to kill one another over the weed.
But
no, I just thinking
I understand what you
to show the direction. Because won't you teach these guys how to make money legally? I don't think the illegal system would be so big. Because them guys see where I can make me legal money when I plant me for you and weed, I give me weed to smoke. Plus, I'd rather fight down nobody and be selling no weed on no block. Because I know at the end of the day, a truck rolling in by me. I load them weed in the back of that container. They take that down to the processing plant. My weed going outside.
But here's the thing. I understand what you're saying, and it's a logical thought process. But that's not just how it works. If you deal with a lot of these guys on the block, it's not a matter of lacking opportunity. So they can plant 3 plants as it is. Go through to those guys who smoke daily and see how many plants they're growing as it is. None. They're spending $100 a day on weed and they don't grow 1 plant. It's not a matter just of the decriminalization and legalization and sorry, and giving them a license to grow and sell. It's about them having the discipline to do it. And many of them don't. That's the reason they're selling drugs in the first place. They want quick, sure money. I agree, though, that we should legalize the whole thing. That's my opinion. My opinion is legalize the whole thing. Not even the 3 plants, not even the 30 grams, none of it. Legalize the whole thing. Allow people to grow it like lettuce in their backyard if they so wish. I also understand, though, if you do that, the guys who are the typical block guys, it's not like they're going to, oh, well, weed is legal now, I have no reason to do crime. That's not what's going to happen. They want money, so many of them are going to go into robbery very likely. I remember, was it Crimax, one of the guys that, the officers that regularly frequent the program, was talking about part of the reasons we're seeing certain increases in criminality is to do with the decriminalization of weed, that it disrupted the nature of how some of these blocks function. So it's not just guys could plant it, they would end crime, because as it stands, those guys could plant banana and export it. They could plant cassava and export it. They could plant dasheen and edos. They could plant lots of things, but they're not planting anything. That's why you open up that avenue. If you open up the weed planting avenue, the people that would benefit from that wouldn't even be the pothead weed smoker everyday guy who is standing on the corner. The guy who might benefit the most from legalizing planting marijuana and exporting it might be the guy who already makes the most money from selling bananas, because he knows how to plant and he's diligent to grow. So he's just going to add some weed to his stock. He don't even smoke a lick of it, but he may be the one to make the most money. And it's to do with the discipline of it all. That's why, like, for one, I regularly say there should be no prison sentence without hard labor. Like the idea of sending someone to prison to sit down and do nothing sounds ridiculous to me, because I can't even do that in the real world. You can't sit down and do nothing and eat food in the real world unless you have your mommy and your daddy taking care of you. To me, all prison sentences should be hard labor. It's most of these guys, they aren't afraid of death, they aren't afraid of police, they're afraid of hard work. You hold these boys down, that sounds weird, but you catch these guys and force them to put in a week of hard work, and that is real torture to them. Nothing is more torturous than a week of diligent hard work. They must wake up 5:30, reach to the job site by 7 o'clock, work till 4 o'clock, and then go home. For a week, many of them cannot. Abu Bakr says, no, this country enslaves the people, and we have to work too long and too hard for too little. If you think so, go to any other place and see where you work shorter and easier for more.
No, but Nathan's second suggestion towards recommendation as well, right? So we hear people talk about the Myland program and some of these other military-led programs. And you know, I'm an advocate for a complete military academy. So from a secondary school completely run by the military, in my view, is why I think could work in some of these cases. We also realize that crime is an industry. Let's see crime from an industrial point. If you want to take down, let's say, the oil and gas industry, where are you going to tackle first? You're going to tackle the supply of oil and gas. That is where you're going to break it down immediately from the source. So if we look at this, the justice system is profiting. We talk about the Proceeds of Crimes Act, but how many persons have been prosecuted under the Proceeds of Crime Act? You always hear about this big fish, which right now I believe everybody must hear big fish in my view. But we always hear this big fish ideology. But at the end of the day, the big fish is the guy who you can't touch because he has the money to pay the lawyers. He has the money to go to the Privy Council. He has the money to fight his case until he dies. And he's not a weed smoker. And if you break his house, chances are you're not gonna find firearms. Chances if you break this big fish, you're not gonna find the illegal substances. So what are you going to really use to say go and catch the big fish? You have nothing. Even if you try to use paperwork to trail him now, the way this system is, you're not gonna even get paperwork to time because he's not signing off on some of these things. He's just simply a short caller.
Yeah, that's a fact. If someone is truly a big fish, that by nature of being a big fish, they're hard to access and hard to get. Yes, very true. And you know, I'm more of the view that there are many large fishes out there, and I think many of those fishes are accessible. The idea that, and I think that is used in Trinidad, that big fish ideology, I'll call it an ideology, the big fish ideology, the big fish kind of thought process, I think that is used as a technique for obscuring. We have people for years telling us about the big fish and the big fish. So we're looking for some white collar businessman who isn't known in the public, and he is the one behind all of this. But while they tell us about those mysterious big fishes behind the curtain, there are massive barracudas biting people in obvious view of everyone, and they aren't dealing with those barracudas. So what are you telling me about big fish? Like, that's the thing that bothers me. You tell me about big fish, but the massive mysterious big fish that we don't know. But there are fishes that we do know that you obviously can't deal with. If it was that, okay, we were dealing with the small fishes and we're only seeing small fishes keep popping up, then we would say what we really need to do is tackle the big fish. But we aren't actually dealing with these small fishes. When have we actually found someone guilty of leading a gang and thrown them into prison for decades because of that? Like, usually the way they do many of these things is they work their way up. How are you trying to tell me what we're supposed to do? We're not even supposed to work our way up the food chain. We're watching all these little piranhas at the bottom biting us. And you're telling us the piranhas aren't the problem. It's the big fish that we don't know. We need to get to the big fish. Well, deal with the piranhas and we'll make our way up the food chain to this big fish. But you're telling us about the big fish while we could see the piranhas. Like, think about that for a moment. We expect the security services to deal with some mysterious millionaire big fish that is untouchable, while the small fries that we know cannot be dealt with. These guys going into police custody smiling and knowing I out by next week, boy, them fellas is imps, boy. These small fish, the big fish ain't even the problem yet. We reach too far. We reach too far. Forget about the big fish. The small fish driving Range Rover. There's a pretty big fish. Deal with that one.
I have an excellent suggestion here too. What I was disappointed in is when I heard the announcement as well, why are we not putting our money into the cadet force, into the Girl Guides, Boy Scouts, kind of grouping as well? Why the funding going direct into the defense force? And these organizations are incubators usually to supply the defense force with personnel. Why not create a younger intervention a lot faster and avoid the problem waiting to get so big?
I agree. I agree. Early intervention is ideal in a lot of those things, and maybe in Tobago that's a more accessible solution. Also, trying to revivify the networking of the community with the cadets and all of that. The idea being, if the community is more interconnected, it's more difficult for crime to flourish. And I agree. I agree. You have to go down to the community level with some of these things, but I could understand with the paying for the regiment if, as I said, if the idea is to go into these communities to clean it up before you go in there to deal with the social issues. That makes sense. But I just have a suspicion that's not what they're going to do. For decades now, these names remain mysterious. I don't think so. If you talk to police officers, they could list off they could rattle off a list of names for you. Probably easily a couple hundred long. Some of them know who are the players in the underworld. You ask an officer, who is the main man in Chaguaramas? And he's going to tell you. Who is the main man in Carnage? And they know. Who is the main man in Big Yard? And they know. Who is the main man on this specific street? And they know. Trust me, they know. They talk about the structure of some of these organizations. They are very aware. They know. And I'm not even going to put all of that on the police, because as we know, the police have to seek advice from the DPP oftentimes when we're talking charges. And we know this DPP, he ensures that his I's are dotted and his T's are crossed before he does any kind of prosecution. So it may not be all on the police. I find a lot of solutions difficult to do because of the diversity. That's depressing. That's a fact, and it's a difficult fact, RL. It's a difficult fact for some people to admit and understand. I think multicultural countries are much more difficult to run. If we were all Indian Hindus, we could have subscribed to at least a Hindu solution for this, but we aren't all. If we were all Christians, we could have subscribed to a Christian solution to all of this, but we aren't all Christians. If we were all any one thing, the solution we could aim for could be found within that one thing. But we have to look for a solution that Hindus, Christians, Muslims, Baha'i, atheists, along with different ethnic, racial groups, all of them must be okay with the solution that we find. Those are hard solutions to find.
But I think what we also have to realize is leadership on a whole is very challenging, and especially at that level, because oftentimes we would bomb our leaders, and rightfully so in some cases, but sometimes if we have to put ourselves in their shoes and to be provided with just as much information as they have, we may think and operate similar to a lot of them as well. Because sometimes I sit and I think, if I sat in the seat of Commissioner of Police, what would I do? How would I implement? And when I think to some of the ideas, I'm like, this really looks similar. And then you also realize that they don't see everything. For me, I think some crime fighting strategies should not go public. We should just hear about something, see it happen, or feel the difference as a population, and then say, yeah, something good happening for crime, and I wonder what they do it, because they begin to see and feel the impact of it. Don't tell me some of your crime fighting strategies, because Barry don't tell you, I come in and break in at you tomorrow. So why should we tell them when we come in for you? So certain things, crime fighting, I believe, should really be kept down low. I don't think we should come out and say, the crime fighting strategy is $100 million for at-risk communities. Now we have the criminal elements thinking, so I put in money into the community. I could bring in some more guns at 100,000 million in now we could get a piece of that boy. And then his internal team, because they're not stupid, criminals ain't stupid. They are some of the most brilliant brains you could find around. So they don't begin to say, okay, how I could get a piece of this? Who are having this department? Who here, who there? So they don't try to figure out how they could get a piece of that pie. If you didn't see anything, we saw the military work, we saw that massive investment happen. We begin to see boots on the ground, we see the changes. You might say, oh, how come they function? And then we could ask, wait now, how come we see more soldiers they recruiting rapidly? How come we see things? And then you know, let them know we added an increase of 100 million to tackle this particular issue.
I understand what you're saying, but one, Trinidad is probably too small to really get away with that. There are many leaks inside of the police service, so even as pertinent as a raid, that's often leaked. Many of the blocks know every time they're going to be raided. How often do you hear a block in Trinidad raided and they get guns and drugs and arrest anybody? So oftentimes when they raid, they find a rusty gun in a deserted building and nobody owns the gun. It's some rusty gun with 3 bullets in it. So the secrecy part is difficult in a country like ours. RL, you're saying Brazil, but Brazil has a lot of the problems that Trinidad has with that same multiculturalism. Brazil has a lot of the crime problems and difficulty in finding solution. But Brazil still has a bit more of a universal culture, a bit more of an overculture, in that Brazil is heavily Catholicized. So at least they have something they could unite behind, as in a religious ethic. When we don't even have that, those things are just difficult. Abu Bakr talking about we are all humans, and I'm speaking about religious beliefs. Yes, we are all humans, but religious beliefs and variance in human nature has led to lots of difficulties and death throughout history. And pretending like we are all humans, kumbaya, we can all exist together in a vacuum like that it's a lie. It doesn't work like that. The reality is it does not. As much as we would like it to. I probably should have used a different country example. I was waiting for you to give me an example of that, because I'd like to think of a country that is heavily a multicultural country and they're well ordered. I can't really think of one. And doesn't that kind of tell us something? Sometimes I think I would just go live North Korea and throw in the towel. If you want to throw in the towel, probably not North Korea.
These are the only things I was looking at, right? I don't mean to sound religiously biased, but a lot of the world economic strong countries, in my view, tend to lean towards a particular religious organization or group, and they hold firm on their religious principles. They are not democratic, but they are serious economic powerhouses. And I used to wonder why, but I think I now got the answer.
Yes, to some extent, yes. If part of what you're talking about is in the Middle East, well, part of the reason for their economic power is oil. That's one. Part 2 is autocracy with the monoculture. One supreme leader and one culture makes it easy to get things done in the country. That's about, it's easy to get things done. And anyone living in Trinidad understands it is not easy to get things done. If this was an autocracy, when Manning wanted the rapid rail, he said, rapid rail, let it be done. And by now, we sit on a train. It just happened. Who house had a blow down, who land had a mash up. That is that. Someone earlier on was talking about a lawyer would have sued in this country, and that's a fact. Because of the nature of our country, and that's why I regularly talk about this. So to cap off our whole multicultural experiment, we have the Privy Council as the top of it. So we are a multicultural experiment in this petri dish, experimenting how we work with each other. And then the legal authority over us is the former colonial head. What they say actually goes. So we're trying to balance that.
I, for one, is in favor of the Privy Council. The way we have normalized corruption throughout this region, sometimes is good, in my view, to have someone who makes that judgment based on what is presented before them, and having no interest and no financial, physical, social, ethical, wherever benefits I could find out of making the...
But here's the problem with that positive. I agree. But here's the problem with, and I made a video on the Privy Council and why I think it's a good thing that we have the Privy Council. And for that very same reason, for trust in our judicial system, you want it to feel like no one has undue influence, especially in a country like ours that is multicultural. If you had a Privy Council, a Supreme Court locally, and you had the PNM choosing the Supreme Court, and the local Supreme Court had 9 Negro people on the local Supreme Court, you all know how that would have gone in Trinidad and Tobago. But for it to be exterior to our entire culture, it makes the trust in the system a bit better. I agree. However, there are some problems with that. So, El Salvador, we look at the solution El Salvador did to their insane criminal problem. The president came in and decided we're going to lock up the criminals. And he did. We can't do that here because the lawyers will carry it to the Privy Council and they will win. But if our highest court was inside of our country and we basically as a society, we could decide that, hey, court, we want all of these people locked up. We don't care what you have to say. We could have made that happen. We can't exert that kind of influence and authority over the Privy Council. We don't have that. So we are locked in here with what we could do. So our government can make laws. Our independent, free government could make a law and someone could carry it up to the Privy Council to see this law is unconstitutional. And the Privy Council decides the law that our free government made independently is unconstitutional, so it has to be struck down. Are we free even? Are we independent even? As much as I understand the benefits of it, things to consider with it. All right. Looking to wrap up there, people. I know I started late. Yes, I know. We're trying to work on that. But looking to dive out there. What's your closing statement, Positive?
Yeah, well, be mindful and not mindless, because still haven't articulate as yet. No, but as we continue, I mean, we have to look for options at this point in time. I think, in spite of us being critical and being not pleased, you better we begin to put forward solutions at this time. Because you're getting fed up at the crime thing. I mean, people you're going to church with now, you're hearing picking up bullets, you're walking out the road, and it not say you're unsafe, but you're reaching a stage you're kind of getting irritated by it because it's beginning to reach home, and I don't think we want to wait for it to reach on our doorsteps before we begin to make suggestions to the problem. And let's not look to the politician for the solution. Please. I heard a statement by Senator Damian Crawford in Jamaica, and it's someone I think we all should do some research on. I remember he made in his statement, every decision a politician makes, he usually look at the political impact that it's going to have, whether it's positive or negative. And as a young budding politician, that phrase stuck with me. Good night.
Good night, sir. All right, people, thank you for tuning in. This has been the Mindful Live. I am Nathan Spring. I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained. And I'll see you guys again for the next Mindful Live show tomorrow, starting around that 9:30 p.m. time. Until then, people, hold it down. Stay well. Peace out. Bye.